Hello and welcome to Believers in Business. I'm your host, Alexa Economos, along with CEO and author of Quest of the Keys, Scotty Sanders. So, Scotty, first of all, tell us about Quest of the Keys. Was this a nonprofit first or a book first, and what exactly is it?
Well, it is a book. It started out as a resource for our for-profit company, which is Life Catalyst Consulting. One of the things I got involved in consulting mostly was nonprofits, most of those being churches, but I worked with a very large charter school system. And one of the things when I'd go visit their schools, they would use character education, but when I talked to the principals and the teachers and the students, it was almost like it was a disconnect. Yes, we're using it, but our kids don't really enjoy it. It was more what I'd call the didactic type teaching. It was things that I learned growing, or actually when I was in my teenage years and older, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, great stuff. But for teenagers, it didn't resonate with them. And so I just started thinking about, man, I really want to connect with this next generation. But as I get older, that becomes more of a challenge. How could I do that? And so I did some research on how do you communicate and connect with the next generation. And it was through story forms. I just said, you know what? I didn't know any better. I said, I'm going to look at writing a book that speaks their language, but take these things that I've learned through the years and incorporate those into the book. So it started out as a resource that I would use in schools through my for-profit company, Life Catalyst Consulting. And then it morphed into bigger than just a resource. The opportunity potential is so much greater. I needed to get more people involved.
Okay, so this started actually out of, as you were saying, this really became a calling.
Yes.
From what your day-to-day commitment was through your company. And
Yes.
that's how you were spurred on to write the book.
Yes,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
And then the nonprofit came after that.
Yes.
And what exactly is the focus of the nonprofit? Where does the nonprofit fit into all of this?
Well, the vision of the nonprofit is to empower the next generation to discover their purpose, unlock their potential, and live with passion. Now, our dream is by the 2035 to empower 1 million of the next generation. That could be middle school, high school, and elementary, but it's really to empower them to figure out what their purpose is. Why are they on earth, and something significant they can be a part of, and really helping them to live with passion. Don't make every day count. Know there's something bigger in life, and then really for them to understand there's so much potential in them, how they can unlock that potential within them and provide them opportunities to do that.
When you look at this generation, what is it about them that you see that sort of made you go, well, I really, really need to help focus their direction in life? You're a dad, you're a grandfather. So what did you see about this generation that really spoke to you about that?
Well, as I mentioned, I've got 4 granddaughters, so certainly I'm motivated just by them and seeing the things that, again, I believe that there's great potential there, but no one's really challenging them. And I'm real big on take personal responsibility for your own life, your own choices. And I see a generation that's somewhat void of that. They're not being challenged. It's almost like we give a participatory prize to everybody, what I'm saying, versus really challenging them to be their very best and to live for something bigger than themselves. A little bit of that this generation with my granddaughters, it's a little bit more focus on themselves and less focus on others. So how can they focus on how can I make a difference in other people's lives?
So I would say, we were talking about this a little bit before, what's so tough about being a parent today is that you want to give your kids everything. You want them to have a great life. But then along that path, you realize that your kids may not have as much empathy as you would like them to have, or they don't realize that the rest of the world doesn't necessarily live all the same way. And so it sounds to me like we're talking about character building. Is it really possible, though, to teach character? Can you change a child's character?
Yes, and what we call it, we break up Quest of the Keys, really, we call it our success framework, and there are 2 parts of it. Part 1 would be what we'd call how we cultivate these intrinsic characteristics. Okay, for instance, one of the intrinsic characteristics would be helping them to discover their purpose, to understand something bigger than themselves. So it's less focus about them and more focus on how can I make a significant contribution. Another one would be for them to live with passion, to understand really every day is a gift and of something you can do something with it. So really having that passion. And so part of that passion would be helping them to figure out what's really important to them, what gets them fired up. If you can find something that someone's passionate about, work doesn't seem like work anymore, right? Because you love it. It's like, I get paid to do this,
Love
right?
what you do.
Yeah, you love what you do. My dad's 84 years old. He still works full time because he loves it.
Yeah.
The worst thought for him would be retiring because he loves it. He's passionate about that. What if we could take young people and get them passionate about living life and enjoy what they're doing? And the third one would be helping them to unlock their potential. And again, that's kind of an overused thing, but people have tremendous potential. We just never unlock that. So one of those intrinsic characteristics, we teach them on how they can unlock that potential. And the next one would be to help develop persistence. Is that grit element. We're so easy when things aren't going well, just quit, just stop, I'll do something else, versus push through. Even when it gets hard, it may be right around the corner. So that would be one piece. And the second piece would be developing extrinsic life skills. Okay. And so those things would be like advanced planning, problem solving, setting priorities, and even people skills. I find today most people lack basic people skills. So we teach them basic people skills, how to ask good questions, how to listen, how to look people in the eyes, how to problem solve. A lot of people don't know how to problem solve. We get a problem, we just avoid it. So that would be more of the develop those extrinsic life skills. So it's broken down again, intrinsic characteristics and extrinsic life skills.
So when we talk about the book, you're using a character, the character Declan.
Yes.
Because a lot of times when you want to resonate with someone, you've got to tell a story.
Yes.
And so if there's a parent out there listening thinking, maybe I want to get this book for my child, the child reads the book, what do they learn from Declan? Or what typically is the reaction that kids have after reading Quest of the Keys?
Yeah. Well, again, I get to visit with a lot of kids, and so we'll get input. Who's your favorite character? And they're usually either Declan or Camberly. But with Declan, what they realize is about you don't give up in life, even though it's difficult. That would be one of the things. Another one would be taking personal responsibility. Declan started out on a bad path because he made some bad choices. And he had to come to his end to say, look where I am in life. It's very similar to the prodigal son. In fact, kids that are believers sometimes say, that story sounds very similar to the prodigal son. And so the prodigal son had to come to his senses to realize, is this the best I can have? And so somewhat Declan does that. But Declan moves from being very selfish, being very prideful, to a person saying, my life needs to be focused on other people versus myself. And so getting kids to start focusing on others. How can I serve others? How can I lift others up? It's really demonstrating empathy, compassion, and love to other people.
Yeah, and those are powerful.
Yeah.
What kinds of reactions do you get from kids when they read this book?
Oh,
Is there one story that stands out to you?
Let me just tell you one that I'm reminded of, that one of my team members, she's actually my daughter that I get to help be a part of our team. I was speaking at school, this has been a few weeks ago, and so I'll do something where I'll ask questions, kind of trivia questions, and so rather than me trying to pick students that are raising their hands, I'll usually get the teacher or principal, won't you select which one to answer the question? So it was a young lady that raised her hand in the back, and there's about 200 students in this group, but it was a guy that raised his hand at the same time, and so she ended up calling on the young lady to answer the question, and I can't remember the question, but she got it right, so I gave her a signed poster of Declan, and it's a big deal. He's an actor, and so it's basically, this picture but blown up with Declan's signature on it. So anyway, this lady gets a signed picture and gets a picture of me taken with her. So the little boy was kind of upset that he didn't get called on. So somehow, some way, this young boy goes home, tells his mom that he wanted that poster so bad. Oh. He wanted it so bad. She found a way to get in touch with our organization. My daughter ended up answering the call, talks to the parent, the mother, and she just basically says, I'll do whatever it takes to get a poster. I'll pay whatever, do whatever I have to do that. My daughter takes the initiative, gets a poster, comes to my home. Dad, I need you to personally sign a note to Matthew. She goes and personally delivers it to their home within the next day. And so that's, again, it's a reaction from this kid. That meant so much for him to get something like that. But it also, my daughter demonstrated what we stand for in our organization. We don't just talk about it. we lived that out. She went the extra mile, the extra effort to value this child and the request of the mom. That just sticks in my, makes me a proud dad.
Oh, sure.
You know, so that she took that extra effort to do that.
You've done your job.
Yeah, I just feel like that's exactly.
And
you know,
he'll
what
never forget that.
He'll never
He'll,
forget.
and
he
he'll
let us
always
know that he's already framed it. It's
appreciate
hanging in
that.
his bedroom.
Sure. Yeah. And that everyone needs a hero to aspire to in a
Yes.
sense. And
Yes.
heroes are often imperfect,
Yes.
as you were talking about with Declan. So when we talk about the organization can really be used as, at least these principles, as a teaching aid in schools. And I'm curious to know when you started instituting that, we just saw a picture of you at a school talking to assembly. When did all of that piece of the nonprofit or just of your mission begin?
Yeah. Well, let me back up for just a second. The keys that I teach in the book are things that I've taught in Fortune 500 companies. So I don't want it to seem like this is watered down. I just take it and do it in a story form. But I've taught this in India and Thailand, and I mean, really all over the world, China, but in also Fortune 500 companies. In fact, I'm doing a training Friday with a multi-million-dollar company teaching these same principles. But I do it in a way that they'll understand it. So it'd be more, more detail, more depth, if you will. So this is something that, again, I felt like this is helpful to CEOs of major companies. It can also help young people. But so from that, but that was really the heartbeat. These principles are transferable to any age group and it can apply. You just have to apply it to where you are in life and stuff. But what I started to see is that this is so much bigger than me. I felt like God gave me the opportunity to steward this somewhat, but it's way bigger than me. And so in order to make it as where God wanted it to be, I felt like this needs to be broad and beyond just what I can do on my own. And so I started praying about, God, where would you take this? And so I had a few close advisors, including my wife, and we said, let's just launch out a nonprofit, also of another nonprofit that we work specifically in churches. And so we started recruiting a top-notch board, and God has given us a great number of board members that are very passionate about this, that have great connections and believe in our vision that we have for this. So that started almost 3 years ago now as a nonprofit.
Wow, that's fantastic. And then how many schools now have you been into spreading the message?
Yeah, we're in about 21 states, but probably a few hundred schools. And some of that we don't really know because sometimes a school may purchase through our distributor, a classroom set of books. So it's one of those things a little bit hard to track, but we know we're in 21 states and we've had, probably in the 20 or 30,000 students that have read the book or used it in school.
And it's interesting because I was asking you, would this book, Quest of the Keys, be something that's appropriate for my, highly intelligent 9-year-old son, middle child? And that got me to wondering if you have something for younger kids. You were just saying, the principles can be taught to anyone and everyone. It's just the way that you present it. Yes. So do you have something for younger children?
We do. And in fact, that, again, it always goes back to, rather than just, and I'm asked this sometimes by students, what led you to write the book? Did you desire as a young person to write a book? That was never my goal in life, to write a book. In fact, I didn't even necessarily enjoy the tediousness of writing
the process?
it. No, I didn't really enjoy that. I enjoyed the fact that we had a team and we worked together, the team side of that and the vision piece, but the detailed writing is not something I necessarily enjoy, but it was more about my desire to accomplish my purpose, which is to encourage and empower others to live, lead, and finish well. And this was my way to do that with the young generation. Yeah. And so that's what drove doing that. But so again, back to a need and what my purpose is. And so when we were meeting with superintendents, one of the questions that would come up to us is, man, this is great for middle school and high school, but what about lower elementary?
Sure.
We can start getting kids younger. Could you take these same principles and incorporate that in more of a young, more of that lower elementary? And so, I thought to myself, I probably can't do that, but I know the perfect person. So I had to go home and sell it to my wife. What would you think about writing more of a bedtime reader that we can use for lower elementary? And so she prayed about it and thought about it and said, you know what, if you think we should do it, let's go for it together. And so again, very collaborative. She was the main writer, but we hired a Dallas illustrator and we worked with a coach and we got input from our creative director. And that was, to me, the fun part, that it wasn't just me doing it or her doing it. It was us pulling other people in and get the best ideas from doing that. And even having our granddaughters speak into that.
Yeah, what do they say about it? I mean, they obviously look at you as grandpa, but are they aware of what your calling has led to and what it's accomplished?
Sometimes I wonder, do they totally get it and stuff? And I think they're just, I know they're very proud about that, and I think it means a lot to them because in the story Guardians of Light, the prequel to Quest of the Keys,
For the elementary
for the
kids.
elementary kid, the four characters are named after our granddaughters and use their middle name. And in the book Quest of the Keys, there are key landmarks in the book that uses their middle name, like Clare River, Grace's Hollow. Let me think of some other, Rose's Rest, and and Kate's Crossing. So all of their middle names. So they always kind of compare, well, how did she get a river and I only got a crossing? So I think they get a real kick out of that. And again, all their schools, or a couple of their schools, have used the book in their school, and that really means a lot. Of the teacher will read it in the school and that kind of thing.
There's a lot of pride.
Yes.
It's a family endeavor
It is.
and a labor of love.
Yeah, and again, we want it to include them because our family is important to us. But I think they get the feeling that this is way bigger than me. And in fact, I really believe that God may raise one of them up to eventually be my successor to continue it on back to the vision of empowering the next generation, which would be really cool.
Sure. And there's also talk, is there not, about potentially a movie?
Yes, and that's, again, did I set out to do a movie? Absolutely not.
It just grows,
It's just
though.
one of those things. People, and again, it's the story of passion. One of a guy named Major Dodge, who's an actor here in the Dallas area, he actually read the book, and he was one of the actors that we used when we did the original book launch list. And he just said, this has got to turn into a movie. So he talked to some writers and producer friends. The next thing I know, I'm having conversations about selling the rights of the book to be a movie. And it did materialize. And part of that is because once you sell the rights, you lose control. And I was concerned that it could turn out to be something that I wouldn't feel comfortable with to be used in a school. And so we just recently signed an agreement with a company in Hollywood that they are our marketing firm for that. But now we're working with writers in Hollywood that we're finishing up the script right now. And it should be through about the first week or two in January. But again, very dynamic process. We've used our writing team with the Hollywood writers. In fact, they've said we've never worked this closely with writers where they either want to hijack the project or we're basically just speaking into it a little bit. So I think it's going to turn out really good. Again, we took a big step to get it on the silver screen, but it's still a long way off from that happening. But we'll just see where it develops.
Still, that's pretty amazing, the way that the message is spreading. I'm curious to know, Quest of the Keys, what is the meaning of the title, or how did you come to that title?
Well, the original training that I developed, this is going back probably 12 years ago, was called the 8 Keys to Success.
I see.
Okay, so that was the original training that I've trained thousands of people in lots of different places. So when I was brainstorming with my creative director about he's the one that really came up with the idea, Scotty, this teaching so good. He just did a new DVD on me teaching this material. And he said, man, this would be great. We could turn this in to use it for more people. And it started me thinking about a narrative form. But I just said, let me think about a title. And I came back and said, let's take the 8 Keys to Success. And why don't we just call that story Quest of the Keys? And so that was the play off on that.
Does the quest ever end?
You never end until you're off of this earth.
Yeah, that's right.
That's it.
Because we were talking about you never stop learning.
Never stop learning.
And one needs to realize that
Yes.
when you stop learning, or at least working to learn, you really stop growing.
Well, I'd mentioned to you about my dad. He's 84, so he's finally getting a website, email address. He's just been able to not have to do those things. But he said, how can I improve what I'm doing this next year? So he set some goals for 2019. Again, he'll be 85 coming up. And he's like, what can I do? I said, well, Dad, you need to get a voicemail. You need to get an iPhone, a voicemail, an email, a website, and all those kind of things, because he understands you need to continue, no matter how old you are. If you're 84 or 14, you need to continue to grow.
Yeah, that's a really powerful lesson.
Yeah.
If someone's listening right now and they'd like to get their school involved, they would like your work to be a part of the curriculum, perhaps, or a teaching aid, how can they make that request or help make that happen?
They can go to questofthekeys.com, which is one of our websites, or questofthekeys.org, and there's a contact form there that they can fill out and just put, hey, I'd be interested in talking to you, and someone from our organization will be in touch with them about talking about their school specifically. And listen, in the DFW area is one of our key areas that we're trying to develop. We're almost willing to get in any middle school or lower elementary school to get our resources, and it wouldn't cost the school anything at all, because we've had generous donors corporate sponsors. Now, again, the need for that is greater than we can supply right now, but we believe God's going to provide those people that believe in this and want to support it. And so people can become a monthly donor or one-time gift, or if you're interested in being a corporate sponsor, you can do that as well.
Oh, that's a fantastic idea. Now, what if you're, it is the holiday season, and what if you're a parent or grandparent and you want to buy this book, perhaps as a gift? I mean, this is going to be a gift for my son, and then it's going to his brother.
Yeah.
So where can we find the actual book?
Well, you can get the book at Amazon would be probably the best way to get that. Now, for anybody watching this, if they would like to get a signed copy of that, they can put that they can go to questofthekeys.com and just put that in the contact information that they would like to get that, and I'll send them a signed copy, and they can pay it. We'll tell them where to send a check to. Make it easy for them.
And in terms of following the possibility of a movie, where can people follow you on social media or perhaps get those updates?
Yeah, so on our Facebook, so Quest of the Keys Facebook account, they can check it out, and we keep things updated there. And also on our questofthekeys.com would be our main educational site. They can go there as well.
It's interesting because if you go to the website, there's a wonderful video that you have produced where you talk about, how important it is that kids especially unlock their potential, that they stay with their education, that they try to fulfill that. Because if you don't continue following that path, the fallout from that can really be quite something, can't it?
It can. Again, I think you may be referencing about when you drop out of school, what that triggers in a person's life, crime and drugs and so many different things. So we want to do everything not only to get them through high school, and not college is not for everybody. The main thing is be committed to be a learner the rest of your life. And some people need a formal education to do that. For some, it may be, listen, I'm going to learn by reading books and listening to podcasts or whatever it may be, but just be committed to be learning for the rest of your life.
Education does take many forms, doesn't it?
It does. And today there's more opportunities than ever to do that.
Yeah, there sure are. Thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything that you would like to add? I mean, you're doing so much. You're traveling really around the world, spreading your message. I think that people might be curious to know, above and beyond the possibility of a movie, is there another book coming? Is there perhaps another nonprofit, or what's next for you?
Well, again, the book ends with a cliffhanger. So one of the main questions I'm asked when I speak at schools, one would be, when will this be a movie? Number two, when's the next book coming out? But with our Hollywood writers they're actually writing an ending to the book. So that kind of kills the idea of the second book, which makes sense. It's hard enough to get a movie made, much less a sequel and stuff. So I would say the biggest thing, again, I'll share a personal need related to this. This is a big responsibility. It's a great opportunity. It's way bigger than me. I would just encourage anybody that's listening to this today, be a part of what we're doing. And you can be a part of that by helping it, be an advocate to get it in your school, or even just being a financial support. It could be $15 a month, can go a long way, because $15 we can provide curriculum and book to a student. Just think about that. For $15 in 1 year, that can provide what we need for students. So we operate very lean. It's a great organization. We want as much of our resources go to help students. So help financially support us and help be an advocate to get the word out about it.
Well, I got to tell you, as a parent of three, I really love what you're doing, because I think that's something that, can sometimes get lost a little bit. Life is so fast-paced. Our children are constantly, as much as we don't want them to be, they've got their head, their eyes attached to a screen. And that's a lot sometimes for a parent to combat. And teaching character and empathy, and also making them realize that, like you were saying, you don't quit. You have unlimited potential. You just have to unlock it. It's sometimes, I think, as a parent, it feels like it's a very big battle to fight to keep those principles front and foremost in their minds. It's not just about what they're learning in the books, but it's about who they are becoming.
Right. Yes.
And it's hard as a parent today. You're fighting so much on social media and so many influences that I really like the passion that you bring to this. And I think it's going to benefit a lot of kids.
Well, thank you so much. That's an encouragement to me, so thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait for my son to read it.
Well, let me know how it goes.
I absolutely will.
And hey, if he reads it, let him know. I'll make sure he gets a poster of Declan as a little bit of a encouragement incentive for reading the book. How about that?
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Believers in Business. Again, you can learn more about Quest of the Keys online on Facebook at Quest of the Keys, and also questofthekeys.org and .com for more information on how to donate or adopt a school.